Hello, everybody. I'm Vivian McGrath from vivianmcgrath.com. And today I want to speak about the first step to liberate yourself in life and love, because I see so many women missing this very crucial step and staying stuck in this cycle of unbalanced, unhealthy, unhappy relationships. And they just don't know why. They can't understand, why am I stuck here? You know, when I was young, and I haven't even thought about what I'm going to say today, but I just want to speak from the heart because it's coming up over and over and over again. And when I was young and I left a very toxic relationship, I was in a bit of shock because I just wondered, how did I get here? How did somebody who hadn't been in an abusive childhood, I didn't come from a toxic home or anything like that. I was well educated. I was, reasonably well balanced person. And I just thought, how did I get here? How did I end up in a relationship like that in fact I almost lost my life in? And I was in shock because I was completely lost. I thought, I don't even know who I am anymore. I felt really, really disconnected. It was like I was living somebody else's life. And I thought, how did I get here? Who am I? I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't recognize myself. In fact, my life was so far from what I imagined it was going to be. And I was a person that felt insecure and scared and vulnerable and weak. And that was so different from the woman I portrayed on the outside to everybody else. And I thought, how did I get so disconnected? And that was the key, because I remember saying to myself, how did I get here? How did I get to be somebody I don't even recognize? And so many of you say this to me as well. But what I did, I then went on to say, this is not the life I want. Who do I have to become to create the life I want? And then I realized that the gap between where I was and who I really dreamed of becoming, the life I really dreamed of living, I could see this massive gap. And it was the first time I did that. And so many women come on calls with me describing a lifetime of toxic relationships, a lifetime of accepting less in unbalanced, unhealthy, unloving relationships with emotionally stable men or women, unhealthy, unbalanced, unavailable men or women who they get nothing, they get less, they give more than they get back in these relationships. And they describe to me a lifetime of this and a lifetime of just feeling lonely in these relationships and hurt and taken advantage of. And what they describe to me is, losing everything, losing financially, enormous amounts of money when they are not living their greatest potential and fulfilling their passion and purpose in careers. Also funding toxic partners who just take money from them. It's a lifetime of losing themselves spiritually, emotionally. Their kids miss out because they're so anxious they can't be present for them. They are not stepping up into this role model of showing their kids what self-worth, strong boundaries, healthy relationships looks like. But then it's really interesting. What I then hear is denial kick in. And they start saying to me, you know what, I'm good. I can fix this. My life's not that bad. I have good days. I have some good days. I do have some bad days, but it's not as bad. Or they say to me, the last relationship, it wasn't as bad as the one before. And I say to them, hang on, let's get real here. The one before was so toxic that's not a really great benchmark. Better than a really toxic relationship is not a great benchmark. And I start to really try and dig a bit deeper to shine a light on where they are right now, if they are honest with themselves. And so many of women say to me, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be negative. You're trying to be negative. I don't want you to be negative. I don't like to think of the negative stuff. I like to just focus on the future and hope and pray that it one day might be different. And I really want to be honest and speak from the heart. It's not enough. It's not enough. And the reason I want to get you to be honest with yourself and look at the truth of where you are right now. A lifetime of toxic relationships, a lifetime of unhappiness, a lifetime of it costing you. Relationships with family and friends who are sick of hearing about your emotional dramas, disconnecting from your children because you're just trying to cope and survive, not thrive. It's costing you. And until you have the courage to see the gap, the reason I do that is I want you to see the gap of where you are now and where that dream life is. Because you can pretend for the rest of your life, it's not that bad. And denial is there to protect you. Denial is there to say, you know what, I don't want you to see how bad this is. And paper over the cracks and shut that box inside that deep down you're hurting. Deep down this is not the life you want. And I did that for years, which is why I kept going back to toxic relationships, because I just thought, I'm going to hope and pray that one day it's going to be different. That's a fantasy. It comes down to you having the courage to see the gap between where you are right now and how far you've strayed from the woman you really dream of becoming and the life you want to lead. And it was only when I could have the courage to say to myself, this is not the life I want to lead. I deserve better. And I had to have the courage to see the truth of how far I'd hit rock bottom and say to myself, that gap between who I feel right now, this broken, insecure, lonely, unhappy person who's needy, who's begging for crumbs of attention from a toxic man who hurts me, that is so far from the woman I want to become, the woman you see who I am now today. And the only reason I got to this woman I am today is because I had the courage. I didn't do what a lot of women do on the phone with me and go, oh, I don't want to go there. Looking at that, it's being negative. I only want to focus on the positive. And that's fine. That's fine if you want to do that, but that's just a Band-Aid. It's putting a Band-Aid over the reality that there is this massive gap between who you are now and who you want to become. It was only when I saw that and had the courage to say, you know what, it comes down to me, to stop pretending my life's okay. Stop pretending that one day, if I hope and pray, it's going to change. to have the courage to say, I am now tired of this. I'm no longer, it's non-negotiable that I'm here when I know I deserve to have a life here. And that was the first step. That's all it took. The first step to liberate myself in life and love was to stop being in denial. And that denial, yes, it does feel like being negative. And it does feel like, admitting to yourself your life sucks. Let's face it. And that's hard, because then you start to feel guilt and shame and what's wrong with me and how did I get here? But you know what? I didn't do that. That's what victims do. They wallow in that. And I'm not a victim. I never was. I just said, okay, I'm going to see the truth. And now I'm going to take action to start to fight, to close that gap and to create the life I dream of. I get to choose. That's the exciting bit. You actually get to choose. Do you want to stay stuck there? Do you want to stay in denial, just saying, I don't want to be negative? And so many women say to me when I'm trying to shine a light and show them this is what staying stuck in this cycle is costing them. And in another 5-10 years, what will your life look like if you keep going down round this cycle? Because that cycle, I promise you, only gets worse and worse and worse. And the more numb to it you get, the more you deny it, the more you don't want to think of it as negative, the more it becomes your normal, and the further you will stray away from the woman that you really were born and destined to be. And then it gets harder to close that gap. The longer it goes on, the more you just go into that self-preservation mode of, I just have to pretend my life's fine and one day it's going to be different. Does that make sense? And so sometimes it feels like a bit of tough love. But it is the first step. It is the first step. And I know because it's the step that I took. So if you're ready to find the courage to, let me hold your hand and help shine a light on what this is costing you and how big that gap is, so that we can see this is where you are now. This is where you really want to go. And let's start to work out the steps to take you there. The mindset shifts, how you break those patterns, habits, subconscious things that are going on, like denial, how you break them so that you can claim that dream, claim that life, just like I did. It came down to that first step I took, the first choice I took, to be unafraid and to observe myself as though I were looking at somebody else. Because if I didn't do that, if I never found that courage, I know where my life would be now. It would be like a lot of women I talk to who are now in their middle age and in their 50s, 60s even, saying, this has been my whole life. And I have so much I look back on with regret. It's never too late. But if you stay stuck in this cycle of denial and not seeing that gap, then you'll go into even more self-preservation mode, and you will keep only attracting toxic people into your life. And the number you get, the worse those relationships will get, until you get to the point where you go, I'm done. I'm not going to date anymore. I can't trust myself. I can't trust them. And that's a really lonely place to be. I know. Let me clarify that. I got to a place where I was so good and really confident and happy within, with or without a man. And that is when I found an amazing, balanced, healthy, beautiful relationship. What I mean by that's a lonely place to be, is that if I was still like that, then I'd have no one to grow old with. And that I would find a lonely place to be. No one to share my life with. Share the beautiful moments, like when this morning we walked along the beach and we saw a pod of dolphins. And I went, oh my gosh, look at that. I have someone to share that with. That's what I mean. So, if I talk sometimes about what this costs you, the reality of where you are right now, and you're starting to think, oh gosh, she's negative. Ask yourself this: what if it's possible that I'm just afraid to admit the truth, that I've strayed so far from who I really am and the life that I really would dream and love to live. Have that courage to take that first step to get out of denial. And if you're ready to step out of that denial and fight to close that gap like I did and create the life that you choose to and dream of, and the relationships that you decide are good enough for you, then let's talk. But first, I would really encourage you to watch my free webinar, How to Recover from Toxic Relationships, Fall Back in Love with Your Life, and Never Settle for Less Than You Deserve Again, to know if you are really at that point that I can show you how to break that cycle. So I put the link in the comments or the description below, and watch that, and let's talk if you're ready to close that gap and change your life. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in my next live video. Bye for now.